The lights were bright, the applause thunderous, but deep inside, Steve Harvey's heart was still scarred from years of heartbreak, loss, and loneliness. He had conquered comedy, television, and fame, but there was one part of his life that felt broken. Until one woman, Marjorie Bridges, walked back into his world. Their story wasn't just about romance, it was about redemption, healing, and a love so powerful it saved his life. Stay with us until the end, because what you're about to hear is not the fairy tale the tabloids write. It's the real, messy, and breathtaking love story that turned Steve Harvey from a broken man into the legend he is today. Before Marjorie, Steve Harvey's world was anything but glamorous. He was rich in laughter on stage, but bankrupt in his personal life. Failed marriages had left him scarred. Homelessness had stripped him of dignity. At one point, he was a man sleeping in the back seat of a car, eating saltine crackers, and wondering if God had forgotten him. Even after success came, the wounds remained. Money could buy suits, cars, and mansions, but it couldn't erase the feeling of failure as a husband and as a father. Every time he looked in the mirror, Steve saw not the entertainer America loved, but the man who had been broken, betrayed, and left behind. It was 1990. Steve was still an up-and-coming comedian, playing small clubs, living show to show. Then, one night, Marjorie Bridges walked into a Memphis comedy club. She was radiant, confident, graceful, and with a presence that could silence the room without saying a word. Steve spotted her from the stage, and right in the middle of his set, he stopped. He looked her dead in the eye and said the words that would become legendary. "I don't know who you are, but I'm gonna marry you one day." The audience laughed. Marjorie smiled, but Steve wasn't joking. For the first time in his chaotic life, he felt certainty. But life wasn't ready for their love story just yet. Circumstances pulled them apart. Steve wasn't stable, financially or emotionally. He was chasing dreams, but losing battles at home. Marjorie had her own journey, her own family, and her own struggles. For years, they lived separate lives. Steve climbing to stardom, Marjorie building her own path. Fate had given them a spark, but destiny made them wait. And so, Steve moved forward, but with a missing piece. Every success he achieved came with a shadow. He had tasted what love could be, and then lost it. By the late 1990s and early 2000s, Steve was everywhere, on TV, in movies, on radio. The world saw the suit, the smile, the king of comedy. But behind the cameras, his life was collapsing. Another divorce, another broken home, court battles, financial strain, nights alone in mansions that felt like prisons. He once admitted, "I was never whole. I always had this hole in me." He had women who wanted the fame, people who wanted the money, friends who wanted the benefits. But he didn't have peace. And without peace, success tasted bitter. Then, in 2005, destiny made its move. Steve and Marjorie reconnected. This time, Steve wasn't a struggling comic. He was a household name. But fame hadn't healed him. What healed him was her smile, her calmness, her presence. Steve later said, "Marjorie came into my life, and she saved me. I was spiraling. I was tired. I was ready to give up on love. And then she showed me what it feels like to be truly loved." This wasn't lust. This wasn't infatuation. This was something he had waited for all his life. Unconditional love. Marjorie didn't just become Steve's partner. She became his safe place. She accepted his children as her own. She gave him stability. She gave him forgiveness for his past mistakes. She reminded him that he was more than his failures, more than his broken marriages, more than his public image. Steve said, "Everything I have now, I owe to her. Marjorie changed my life." For the first time, Steve wasn't performing to earn love. He was loved simply for being Steve. And that, he admitted, gave him the strength to become the man he always wanted to be. In 2007, they married. It wasn't just a wedding, it was a rebirth. Together, they blended their families, raised children, and built a legacy. Marjorie stood by Steve through career reinventions, controversies, and criticism. And Steve gave her devotion, loyalty, and gratitude. Their love became a testimony. In every interview, every speech, Steve credits Marjorie as the reason he survived his darkest days. Today, Steve Harvey is not just a comedian, host, and mogul. He is a man at peace. His success is no longer haunted by loneliness. His laughter is no longer a mask. His life is anchored by the woman who saw him at his worst and loved him into his best. And whenever Steve speaks of Marjorie, his voice softens. He doesn't talk about fame, fortune, or power. He talks about love. "Marjorie is the best thing that ever happened to me," he says. "She saved my life."